Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Average Joe Dividends YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to discuss SCHD. It's Charles Schwab's very popular dividend paying ETF. And we're also going to go over the dividends that I received. But first, we're going to talk about it a little bit. We're not going to dive into it too deeply. I know some of you guys love this ETF. It's part of my portfolio, but it's not the biggest portion of my portfolio. It's a part of my portfolio, and it's going to play a part in my early retirement. And the reason, I'll give you a quick reason why I own it, and that is because it pays a good dividend yield, and I believe in the companies that are a part of this ETF. And I think a lot of people just they forget about what's in the portfolio itself, and then they're surprised by maybe the lack of performance as of late with SCHD. And really, I don't expect SCHD to do better than like a Vanguard ETF, like a VTI or VU, which I own more of than SCHD. But one thing that SCHD can do, if you intend on living off of dividends alone, and that is going to be my strategy, I believe, is to try to live off of dividends alone and not have to sell my principal or the shares of my investments. And like I said, people shouldn't be too surprised by the lack of performance, because to look at some of the top holdings, and this is what I'm showing from SCHD's website. Merck has been doing, not great. You can say Amgen in there. Lockheed Martin, Cisco's been doing pretty good. For a while they were slumping, but then they came back and it's doing quite well. Verizon, it's doing okay. It's in the 40s now, but Altria's been doing pretty good. Home Depot hasn't really, it's been really flat. So a lot of these top holdings here in the portfolio have been flat. But I keep telling people though, the market is cyclical, and especially like the pharmaceutical or healthcare kind of sectors or energy, they could be a little bit flat right now and underperforming like the tech sector. The tech sector has been doing really well, and that's really what's kind of bolstering like the VTI and VU, because the top companies like Nvidia and Microsoft, Apple, those are, I consider, those are obviously tech companies in here. But we'll go over the distribution here. It's a little bit confusing when you get here. You see the 75 cents going down to 26 cents, and that's because of the 3-to-1 split. And I was going to show you some math. Some people, they thought this dividend here, the 26 cents, a little over 26 cents, was a dismal dividend. I'm going to show you some quick math I did on my spreadsheet, my Google Docs spreadsheet. You guys are familiar with it. I'll leave a link below. It shows all of the companies in my dividend portfolio, but I just kind of did some quick math with SCHD showing the dividend from Q1 2023 to present. You can see there's that dividend there. What I had to do is I had to divide the amounts from right here from Q3 2024. I had to divide it by 3 to get a 1-to-1 on the sheet. And there's a couple quick calculations I did. I mean, you can see over Q3, you can see how that dividend has gone up right here. So year over year, we've had an increase. So the increase from Q3 2024 is 3.54%, which is not great. It's not what a lot of people were expecting. And I think a lot of people who have been doing SCHD videos, especially kind of plotting out down 10, 20 years for SCHD's dividend future, they're putting in these lofty numbers of like 10% gains in the dividend year over year, which I thought was totally crazy. I think 5% is much more safe to look at for a dividend increase year over year. I think that's a lot more sustainable, not double digits. Because again, you can look at these companies in here, and I don't know of any of these that are doing 10, 15% dividend increases year over year. AbbVie last year was like a 5%. I think Merck was 5. Amgen may have been like 6 or 7. Lockheed, it's like 4 or 5%. Cisco is like a 2%. Verizon's 2%. So how can you really expect more than what we're showing here because of the composition of SCHD? What you do get with SCHD, in my opinion, is you get safe dividends. And they are growing dividends, but they're going to be more modest, I think, in the future. But when we look at the increased over the last 12 months, what I did was I took the last 4 dividends paid, which would be these 3 plus this, compared to the last 4 here, going back to Q4 2023, you can see that it's a 5.79% increase. So to me, that's pretty good. That's what I wanted to do with SCHD. And again, it's not my main holding. But let me show you some comparisons with SCHD. And this is the knock I was going into with it not pacing the S&P 500 or just like a total stock market index. If your plan is to live off of the 4% rule and with a mixture of bonds and stocks, and you're okay with that, I think it's probably a better route to go with like a VU VTI and mix that with like a BND and then do that 4% rule. But what I'm telling you here, this is not investment advice, but I think that could also get you there too. The reason I went with SCHD is I don't want to have to rely on the stock market to tell me when I can retire. If I have enough dividends rolling in to pay my expenses, I think I can very safely retire, even safer than the 4% rule. So let's take a look at SCHD, and we will look at, we're going to compare it to a few things, going to add it in here. We'll see how easy I can do this. Google kind of changed their format a little bit, so I may be a little bit slow trying to go through this. So we'll just do it with VTI. We'll be able to put VU in there. They're pretty close, but I definitely have more VU VTI than SCHD. But we'll take a look at the timeline. We'll get this to like 5 years, and we'll take a look and see what SCHD has been doing, and it has been underperforming over the last 5 years. You can tell you can see here, it is quite significant over a 5-year period here. And will this continue? I don't know. For a while there's a crossover point right about here. Looks like December 29, 2023, that SCHD was doing as well as the S&P or total stock market index, and then it kind of changed. It kind of could have been the reconstitution or something happened right around here, and there was underperformance. We've had underperformance go on here, and it really hasn't caught up. So it could be SCHD's philosophy in here. We'll see what happens with the next reconstitutions, if it continues to lag or what it does. But just kind of wanted to point that out there. So in the next part of the video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to M1, and I'm going to show you those dividends that I got, over $2,500. I'm going to show you what I did with that money there. So we'll go right over there. Okay, so now we're over at M1 Finance, and this is where I have SCHD in 2 different accounts. I have an IRA, and I also have a taxable account where I have pretty significant amounts of shares of SCHD. So I'll show you the proof of those dividends here in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first go to the taxable account, pull that up. The average Joe dividends, you guys are quite familiar with this. So go to the activity log, and I'll show you where I got that dividend with SCHD here. It's going to be buried in here. There it is right here. $1,005.38. And I'll show you what I did with that. We'll see if we can find that buy with that. 8 buys. So what I did was I spread it across. You can see right here, I put some into SCHD and I put some into these companies right here. So that's what I did with that. So I did increase my position of SCHD. I added 9.22196 shares of SCHD. So hopefully the December dividend is more. So I'll have plus 9.2 shares to add there for the next dividend. So let's go. We're going to look at something here. I'm going to show you kind of the dividend history that I've received with SCHD, and then we're going to jump over to my IRA where I have even more shares. So we'll do dividends only here. There we go. So we'll just see the history of this. We'll go with the very first dividend. I think that was the first one. Yeah. So you can see historically, the first dividend looks like I picked it up SCHD in 2022. So I've had it for a little over 3 years now. You can see the first dividend 202, getting the 600s, so we get in the 700s. In case you didn't know, it pays quarterly. Every 3 months is when I'm getting these dividends. In the 800s, it dropped down to the 700s there because that was Q1. Usually Q1 is the weakest dividend. And then you can see there's that huge dividend here in Q2 of 2024. And so far we haven't beat, that's been the record dividend so far. So 950s, back in 900s, almost in 1,000. And I did exceed the $1,000 with the last dividend. So let's go on over to my IRA, where I also have SCHD here. But you can see here though, in this portfolio, here's what is the most dominant here, which is VU and VTI. I want that growth in here. I know, I went over before what the advantages of SCHD are, and also the advantages of having a VU VTI in there. So I believe in both. So, but of course what I'm doing is not investment advice. So let's go into the activity log. I'll show you the proof. Here's that dividend right here at 1508.10. So the 1,000 plus the 1,500, there's your $2,500 right there. So we'll click on that. You can see that. So we'll see what we bought with that. There was one buy, and it was SCHD. And this was based upon the selection of SCHD here was based upon SCHD being underweighted in the portfolio, and that's no surprise because VTI, VU, and BST have been killing it as far as performance lately. But of course, past performance is not going to, it's no guarantee of future returns. So I think SCHD will perform better in the future. So for me, I'm buying these quote on sale. So this dividend drip added an additional 55.63036 shares of SCHD. So that's all to show you guys for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you own SCHD, and let me know if you agree with my assessment on SCHD. I know there's some haters out there who don't like it. They call it a cult stock. It was a comment from somebody when I went over the announcement of SCHD, and someone said, oh, it's what kind of noobs kind of use and invest in. Well, I wouldn't consider myself that when you can just see what my net worth is, and this is just an M1. So I'm not new to this. I have a reason for having SCHD in my account. There's people who have a whole heck of a lot more money than me who also have even more substantial positions of SCHD. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think of the last dividend for SCHD. Are you guys adding more to SCHD? Just let me know. So thanks for sticking to the end of the video. If you got value from this video, please click the like button. Also subscribe so you do not miss future videos. I'm going to go over my Vanguard ETF dividends in my next video. It'll probably be coming out either Friday or Saturday, and I'll show you how I got more shares of those ETFs. So thanks again, everyone. I hope everyone has a great day.